Hi guys, it's Lorelei, or Maddie, and today I am reading chapter 11 of #Murder Trending by Gretchen McNeil. Let's get right into it. Dee opened her eyes. She wasn't in the white room anymore, nor was she lying on the cold concrete floor of Slayer's Maze wearing a Cinderella gown. Instead, she was dressed in frilly pajamas, curled up on the floor in her strange new home. She sat up, eyes blinking against the flickering light from the TV. The maid feed had stopped replaying Jeremy's death and was cycling through the various barracks. Dee watched the feed for a moment, registering the different inmates. She didn't recognize any of them except for Ethan, who was doing incline push-ups off his coffee table, and though the sound was still ever present, Dee had already gotten used to it, like white noise in the background. Dee yawned, stretching her aching limbs as she teetered to her feet. A dim light permeated through the vertical blinds, so diffuse that it left no shadows in the individual slants. It could have been dawn or noon, hard to know through the blanket of fog that had descended over the island the night before. But Dee knew one thing for sure. I survived my first night on Alcatraz. She said it out loud, as if hearing the words made them feel like an actual accomplishment instead of dumb luck. She should have been dead by now, and it probably wouldn't be long before the postman and his band of crazies rectified that situation. She glanced at a camera in the room. She glanced at a camera in the corner of the living room. Its never blinking eye must have watched her sleep, along with however many nut jobs had subscribed to her personal feed. Had they heard her boast about surviving? Were the rooms wired for sound as well as video? Safe to assume so. Fine, whatever. She already had a target on her back, so flying under the radar wasn't an option. She wasn't going to watch what she said. Freedom of speech was one of the few things still in her power. A shower and change of clothes further improved her mood, though the camera behind the bathroom mirror was unnerving. She hung a bedsheet over the curtain rod so her dedicated fans couldn't see her showering. But as she stepped out of the tub, towel already wrapped around her body, she remembered Griselda. Should Dee be playing to her fans too? Should she let them see everything? Was that a surefire way to stay alive? Dee stared into the mirror for a moment, then pulled the bathroom drawer full of sparkly pink cosmetics. This is what the fans want to see. This is what the postman wants for me. She slammed the drawer shut. The thought made her sick. Dee was not a toy, and Alcatraz 2.0 was not a game. The postman could try to control her every move, but there was still something she could do to rebel. Dee marched into the bathroom and stared at her wardrobe, the princess casual day wear, which had thoroughly demoralized her last night, suddenly felt empowering. Instead of pulling a predetermined outfit from the closet, she paired a lavender Rapunzel top with a pink Sleeping Beauty peasant skirt, then donned a not-so-subtly racist Pocahontas frilled jacket and matching suede ankle boots. Maybe this princess thing wouldn't be so bad after all. They were strong girls who defeated seemingly insurmountable evils. Hashtag Cinderella Survivor could do the same. But her newfound optimism took a bitch slap as she descended back into the living room. The monitor above the fireplace now played a rerun of Slayer's Maze, and even though it had been hours since the encounter, the postmatics were still commenting by the thousands. The stream in the sidebar scrolled so quickly it was hard for Dee to read. Monica used to be like that, glued to her screen after a kill video, commenting frantically as she tried to keep up with the feed using her Mobetta-style screen name. Monica, who had inspirations of being a stylist for film and television, had been obsessed with Gucci Hangman and the way he used fashion as an accessory to murder. She never missed one of his videos, still praising him for using last season's Prada fad for Pugucci? No. Pugucci inspired prints as his execution of a former runway model who had been convicted of murdering a rival in order to obtain her spot in an upcoming Fashion Week show, or critiquing Gucci's use of a chain handle purse to slowly obfuscate the word that means suffocate. A former YouTube beauty blogger, while demonstrating the real-time use of highlights and contours on a strangulation victim. Not that Monica was a blind follower. Every now and then she had doubts about her postman devotion. It's okay because they're murderers, right? She'd asked Dee. Dee was never sure how to answer. Was subjecting a killer to a taste of his or own medicine morally acceptable? On paper, sure. That was how the president had sold the country on his outsourcing of the criminal justice system. And though this kind of justice made Dee's skin crawl, she was clearly in the minority. Hundreds of millions of people had watched The Postman. They couldn't all be wrong, could they? It's the law, Dee would respond in a totally non-committal way. It was the best she could muster, and it had seemed to satisfy Monica's doubts, at least temporarily. Secretly, Dee thought it was dangerous to appeal to the most vulgar instincts of humanity, to normalize something as horrific as state-sponsored serial killers. But that's what you got when you got a former reality TV star. But that's what you got when a former reality TV star was elected president. Monica had acquired a small fan base for her commentary, and that had come out during Dee's trial as one of her motivations. Dr. Farouk, the court-appointed psychiatrist, testified that Dee was suffering from a deep-seated jealousy of her stepsister, which wasn't true at all. The last thing Dee wanted was notoriety. Now, in an ironic twist of fate, hashtag Cinderella Survivor had gone viral, surpassing any popularity Mobetta Styles had ever gained. Would Monica have been impressed, excited, proud of her stepsister, or would she finally have realized the true and dangerous nature of the postman? Hard to say. Monica was sweet and bubbly, the kind of girl everyone loved, but introspection wasn't her strong point. She probably would have been terrified for Dee's safety while simultaneously composing commentary aimed to up her own following. Of course, Monica was dead. Dee had found her body strangled on the floor of her bedroom. The panic of that moment was still palpable. The immediate realization that something was horribly wrong, the desperation to help Monica, fighting back the wave of nausea as she tried to revive her dead stepsister, the overwhelming ache of pain and anger and loss when she knew it was too late. Dee recalled the details of that moment as if it had happened an hour ago. The bulging glassy eyes staring straight up at the ceiling fan, open but unseeing. Monica's outfit, a tunic shirt cinched with a wide belt over leggings, the brightly colored pattern, ironically vivid and alive. Monica's shirt was torn at the neck, probably in the struggle with her killer, and a heart had been carved into the flesh of Monica's bare shoulder. The image of that carving was branded in Dee's memory, the broken skin, jagged and torn, a thin line of coagulated blood oozing up from beneath. The lines of the heart were sharp and irregular, as if hastily done, but the shape was still easily recognizable and wholly disturbing. The persecution had intimated that this carving was a sign of Dee's jealousy of her prettier and more popular stepsister, a theory that was backed up by the expert psychiatrist Dr. Farouk, who, aside from one hypnosis session, had never asked Dee a single question. Dee and Monica were the same age, in the same class at school, and the persecution played up the step-sibling rivalry to make it seem like Dee was psychotically envious. And though the police had never found the weapon used to carve the symbol, forensic experts had testified that it was probably a thin, sharp object like a needle or an earring stud, or a pair of point-tipped tweezers, bright pink with white polka dots. Not to be too specific, the exact pair Dee had found stashed in the top drawer of her dresser when she went for her Xnix after calling 911. The blood on the tip wasn't even dry. Dee didn't know how they'd gotten there, who had put them in her drawer and why, but she instinctively knew that she had to get rid of them, which she did by flushing them down the toilet. But even without that evidence, a jury had convicted Dee primarily on the strength of Dr. Farouk's testimony, and so in the end, it hadn't mattered. Dee was the only one left who believed in her innocence, the only one who could find Monica's real killer, and to do that, she needed to stay alive. Dee's stomach rumbled, reminding her that in order to stay alive, she was going to need to eat something. She had no idea how long it had been since her last meal, but her body was officially protesting. She headed for the kitchen, where she could still hear the TV audio from her time in the maze, the clump of Slayer's footsteps echoing throughout her house. But at least she didn't have to watch herself on an endless loop. After zapping the lasagna, she carefully pulled back the plastic cover, noting with some satisfaction that the seal had remained intact. just like Blair had told her, make sure the seals on your food hadn't been tampered with. She had gotten lucky meeting Blair and Niles so soon after her arrival on Alcatraz 2.0, even bitchy Griselda and airheaded Ethan. Though she would never allow herself to trust them, at least she could use their experience to help her stay alive as long as possible. There are people who had been surviving here longer than you realize. That was the way Blair had said it. It was the way Blair had said it that made the comment stick in Dee's mind, as if she was hinting at a secret. Was there actually a place on the island without cameras? If so, Dee needed to find it. No cameras meant no murders. Exploring the island by herself was probably in the top 3 stupidest things to do on Alcatraz 2.0. She would ask Blair about it first as soon as she arrived at Ice Cream. Dee finished the lasagna, then dumped the tray unceremoniously into the trash bin under the sink. And though she was still hungry, she decided to save the apple for later. She could have killed for a cup of coffee, literally, perhaps, if killing other inmates wasn't against the island rules, but it decided some fresh morning air might do the trick instead, so she threw the lock on the side glass door, wandering out onto her patio. The sun was above the horizon now, tinging the gray fog with a yellow glow, and already Dee could feel its warming presence as the wet blanket slowly began its retreat. Blair was right. Things did look better when the sun was shining, literally and figuratively. Well, except for the lawn furniture. The wicker had a thin layer of moss or mold or both growing on its surface. Yeah, Dee wasn't going to be doing any sunbathing on those nasty things, she sighed, turning to go back inside, and came face to face with a pair of green eyes staring at her through one of the gaps in the fence. Like Griselda, Mira appeared to be a few years older than Dee. She wore jeans and a green corduroy blazer buttoned over a plain pinstriped blouse. Her auburn hair was swept back into a low braid, and her green eyes were even more vivid in the daylight. She looked kind of like a prep school student, and Dee's instantly jealous of her jeans and sensible outerwear. Instead of darting away the moment she made eye contact like she had last night, Mira was just scared. Dee was supposed to say something? Was Dee supposed to say something? Introduce herself? Blair had said Mira was kind of standoffish, but the silent stare was starting to creep her out. I'm Dee, she said. I just got here yesterday. Mira cocked her head to the side as if to say, duh, everyone knows who you are. Right. Cinderella Survivor was the new celebrity on Alcatraz 2.0. Great. And you're Mira? Who did you murder to end up here? But instead of acknowledging that it was, in fact, her name, Mira turned on her heel and hurried back inside her house, drawing the sliding door closed behind her, so her neighbor either wanted nothing at all to do with her, or was completely nuts. Maybe both. An antisocial lunatic next door, just one more fun thing to deal with on Alcatraz 2.0. Oh, the comments are back. Choppin' 2017, Murdering Music One Note at a Time, commented, PM has totally redeemed herself. Princess Wardrobe, FTW. Miami Silence Machine, the third Hardy girl, responded to that comment with, she Literally looks like a Rainbow Bright orgasmed all over her. 123 podcast. This is where I write something funny, right? Commented, "Stay classy, Miami Silence Machine." and then Miami Silence Machine responded with, "Please, you were thinking it." And then Snow Queen in Winter, "Yes, I want to build a snowman," responded with, or commented, "OMG, finally, I've been dying for an everyday princess wardrobe. OMG, 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 OMG. I'm so jealous. I want that closet so bad. Postman, can you do an auction for her clothes after she bites it? Please, please, pretty please, with sugar on top." And then Choppin' 2017 replied to that comment with, "Jealous like you would have lasted 5 minutes in Slayer's Maze." Snow Queen in Winter replied to that with, "If I knew there was a Snow Queen dress waiting in my closet back home, I would have taken out all the killers." 123 podcast responded with, "Honestly, I think it's degrading to women. Bad enough Slayer only chased young women through his mazes. Now the postman is making hashtag Cinderella Survivor conform to some kind of puritanical feminine norm." Choppin' 2017 replied to that, to Snow Queen's, like, "OMG, finally" comment with, "Yes, and how could hashtag Cinderella Survivor not immediately go for the yellow beauty dress? Is she blind? Fine, the Sleeping Beauty is cool, but OMG, beauty swoons." And that's the end of the comments, and also the end of chapter 11. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.